The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. John Milton wrote that in 1667, but neuroscientists today confirm he was onto something profound. In the realm of human consciousness, no one ever notices how these invisible mental rehearsals shape entire life trajectories. Your brain manufactures scenarios that never happened and likely never will. Yet these phantom conversations and disasters feel absolutely real. According to research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, humans spend nearly 47% of their waking hours in thought patterns disconnected from present reality. For many, catastrophic thinking is part of everyday life. Some of these patterns go way deeper than anxiety or worry. They're your mind's attempt to protect you from perceived spiritual and emotional threats. These are the top 5 reasons your mind creates fake scenarios and the spiritual meaning behind each one. Let's begin with number 5. Number 5 is the rehearsal defense mechanism. This pattern occurs when your mind creates elaborate fake scenarios as emotional preparation for potential threats. According to cognitive psychologists, this behavior originates in the brain's threat detection system, the amygdala working overtime to predict danger. But spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle claim it's actually the ego's attempt to maintain control over an uncertain future. In his book, The Power of Now, Tolle states that the mind cannot function and remain in control without time, which is past and future. A 2019 study from the University of California found that 73% of people with generalized anxiety regularly rehearse difficult conversations that never actually happen. Participants reported creating detailed mental scripts, imagining exactly what someone might say and preparing their responses word for word. The trigger typically comes from fear of confrontation. Someone sees their boss approaching and immediately constructs an entire termination conversation. A text message goes unanswered for 2 hours, and suddenly, they're playing out a full breakup scenario. According to trauma specialist Bessel van der Kolk in The Body Keeps the Score, this response often stems from childhood experiences where unpredictability felt dangerous. From a spiritual psychology perspective, this is your root chakra seeking safety. Energy workers describe it as the survival brain trying to eliminate surprise, because surprise once meant danger. The subconscious believes if it can imagine every possible outcome, nothing can hurt you. The psychological concept at work here is anticipatory anxiety combined with what's called pre-traumatic stress, experiencing emotional trauma from events that haven't occurred. This thought pattern reinforces the belief that preparation equals protection. On daily life, it shows up when you spend 30 minutes before a 5-minute phone call constructing worst-case scenarios. Your nervous system responds as if the imagined scenario is actually happening. Cortisol spikes, heart rate increases, muscles tense. Meditation teacher Tara Brach recommends the RAIN technique for this pattern. Recognize what's happening, allow the experience, investigate with kindness, and nurture with self-compassion. Journaling the scenarios that never came true helps the mind recognize its own pattern. Grounding exercises, literally feeling your feet on the floor. Interrupt the rehearsal loop by returning awareness to the present moment. Studies show that mindfulness-based cognitive therapy reduces anticipatory anxiety by up to 58% within 8 weeks. The key is catching yourself mid-rehearsal and asking, is this happening right now, or am I creating fiction? Even today, many live in a constant state of mental preparation, unaware this exhausting vigilance stems from outdated protective programming. A pattern that starts as emotional armor becomes a prison if left unchecked. But if rehearsal tries to control the future, worry loops attack from the past. Let's move to number 4. Unresolved energy patterns. This is when your mind replays past scenarios repeatedly, creating alternate versions of conversations or events that already happened. Dr. Candace Pert, neuroscientist and author of Molecules of Emotion, discovered that unprocessed emotions create what she called cellular memory. Your body literally stores emotional experiences at a molecular level. She stated that your body is your subconscious mind. But spiritual practitioners describe this differently. They say stuck energy from past experiences needs movement and resolution. The triggering incidents are specific. Someone replays a job interview from 3 months ago, rewriting their answers. They reconstruct an argument with a family member, this time saying what they wished they'd said. According to a 2020 study in Clinical Psychology Review, rumination, the technical term for this pattern, affects approximately 60% of adults dealing with unresolved conflict. This is your mind's attempt at energetic completion. In Gestalt therapy, Fritz Perls called this unfinished business, situations that lack psychological closure. Spiritually, practitioners describe it as karma-seeking resolution, energy that must complete its cycle. The psychological concept here involves the Zeigarnik effect, the mind's tendency to remember incomplete tasks more vividly than completed ones. Your subconscious treats unresolved emotional experiences like open browser tabs, constantly running in the background and draining your mental battery. Physical effects are measurable. Rumination correlates with elevated inflammatory markers and disrupted sleep architecture. According to research published in Psychosomatic Medicine, people report feeling mentally exhausted despite doing nothing physically demanding. Because replaying scenarios requires genuine cognitive energy, Carl Jung wrote extensively about this in his work on the shadow self. He believed these recurring mental scenarios contain messages from your unconscious, trying to integrate aspects of yourself you've rejected or denied. The fake scenarios aren't random. They're pointing to something that needs attention. The intervention that works most effectively combines emotional release with conscious reframing. Somatic experiencing therapy, developed by Peter Levine, helps complete the body's stress response that got frozen during the original event. Paired with practices like EFT tapping or trauma-informed yoga, people report significant decreases in rumination patterns. Writing letters you never send, expressing everything you wish you'd said, gives the energy pattern a place to land. Some spiritual traditions recommend cord-cutting ceremonies, symbolically releasing energetic ties to past situations. A 2021 meta-analysis found that combining cognitive techniques with body-based practices reduced rumination severity by 64% across diverse populations. The breakthrough came when participants stopped trying to think their way out and started feeling their way through. Neither the mind nor the stored emotion was willing to release. First current neuroscience shows this pattern creates literal neural pathways. The more you replay a scenario, the deeper that groove becomes in your brain. Daily awareness and intentional pattern interruption is key to lasting change. The war of unresolved energy turns personal when ignored, but awareness brings the power to finally let it fade. Coming in at number 3 is the intuition translator. When your mind creates scenarios that feel like premonitions or warnings about future events. Dr. Judith Orloff, psychiatrist and author of Second Sight, describes intuition as a potent form of inner wisdom, not mediated by the rational mind. She argues that what most people dismiss as anxiety might actually be intuitive information being processed through the fear center of the brain. Meanwhile, neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's research on somatic markers suggests the body knows things before the conscious mind catches up, and sometimes translates that knowing into imagined scenarios. The incidents show a pattern. Someone gets a sudden mental image of their child getting hurt, then cancels the playdate. They imagine their partner being unfaithful with no evidence, only to discover months later their gut was right. According to research from the Institute of Noetic Sciences, 67% of people report experiencing at least one instance where an imagined scenario later proved accurate. This goes toe-to-toe with conventional psychology. Is it pattern recognition happening below conscious awareness, or is it genuine intuitive perception? Daniel Kahneman's work on thinking fast and slow demonstrates that the brain processes vastly more information than reaches conscious awareness. Perhaps these scenarios are your unconscious mind's way of flagging detected patterns. From a spiritual perspective, this is your third eye chakra attempting communication. Energy workers claim these mental movies are your higher self or spirit guides sending warnings through the only channel available, your imagination. Mystic Caroline Myss states in Anatomy of the Spirit that your biography becomes your biology, meaning your energy body perceives threats before your physical body encounters them. The psychological framework here involves what researchers call thin slicing, Malcolm Gladwell's term for making accurate assessments based on minimal information. Your subconscious notices microexpressions, environmental cues, and behavioral inconsistencies, then translates that data into an imagined scenario your conscious mind can understand. On daily life, distinguishing between intuition and anxiety becomes critical. Intuition typically feels calm and certain, even if the information is uncomfortable. Anxiety spirals and catastrophizes. Intuitive scenarios feel like information. Anxious scenarios feel like punishment. The intervention requires developing discernment meditation practices that strengthen the observer mind, help you notice the quality of the scenario. Is this wisdom or worry? Keeping an intuition journal tracks which imagines scenarios prove accurate over time, helping calibrate your inner guidance system. According to studies on intuitive decision-making published in Psychological Science, people who learned to distinguish intuitive hits from anxious thoughts improved accuracy by 73%. The technique involves asking, does this scenario empower me to take protective action, or does it just create fear? Spiritual teacher Sonia Choquette recommends the practice of testing the energy. Does this imagined scenario make you want to shut down or wake up? Intuition opens possibilities. Anxiety closes them. Neither the rational mind nor the intuitive self was willing to blink first in Western psychology. But current consciousness research suggests both operate simultaneously, often communicating through the very fake scenarios we dismiss. Even today, many ignore legitimate intuitive warnings because they've been trained to discount imagination as unreliable. The breakthrough comes when you stop dismissing every mental scenario as fiction and start investigating which ones carry genuine information. If intuition had a face, it would be these impossible-to-explain moments when fake scenarios turn out to be preparation for real events. Number 2 is the manifestation misfire. When your mind creates negative scenarios as an unconscious attempt to prepare for or prevent unwanted outcomes, but actually programs them into reality. Dr. Joe Dispenza, neuroscientist and author of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, explains that the brain doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. He states, if you're thinking about your problems, you're programming your body to the past. Meanwhile, quantum physicists like Fred Alan Wolf suggest that observation affects reality at the quantum level, meaning where you place your attention literally shapes what manifests. The triggering pattern is insidious. Someone about to receive test results imagines the worst diagnosis, replaying hospital scenarios and funeral preparations. An entrepreneur visualizes their business failing before an important pitch. According to research in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, this negative mental rehearsal actually decreases performance outcomes by up to 34%. This behavior clapped back at the manifestation community's toxic positivity. Not every thought creates reality instantly, but sustained emotional visualization does program the nervous system and influence behavior. You imagine failure. Your body responds with stress hormones. Those hormones affect your performance, and suddenly the imagined scenario becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Spiritually, this represents misaligned creative power. Your mind is a manifestation tool constantly creating. The question is whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously. Abraham Hicks' teachings emphasize that you get what you think about whether you want it or not. And most people don't realize the fake scenarios they run constitute extended visualization practices for things they don't want. The psychological concept is expectancy theory combined with confirmation bias. When you repeatedly imagine negative outcomes, you unconsciously scan for evidence supporting that reality while filtering out contradictory information. Your reticular activating system, the brain's attention filter, looks for what you're focused on. Physical effects manifest quickly. Studies using functional MRI show that imagining stress activates the same neural networks as experiencing actual stress. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics demonstrates that perception and belief directly influence genetic expression. Your cells literally respond to your dominant mental scenarios. On daily life, this shows up as the worst day you imagine becoming the actual day you experience. Not through mystical forces, but through the biological reality that your mental rehearsals prime your nervous system, affect your decision-making, and influence how you interpret events. The intervention requires conscious reprogramming. Neuroscientist Dr. Tara Swart recommends visualization practices that specifically rehearse positive outcomes with the same detail and emotional intensity people naturally apply to negative scenarios. Just 15 minutes daily of constructive visualization can begin rewiring default patterns within weeks. Spiritual practitioners add an energetic component, clearing exercises using breathwork or sound healing to release stored negative programming before installing new patterns. The combination of cognitive reframing with somatic clearing produces results faster than either approach alone. A 2022 study on guided imagery and performance outcomes found that participants who practiced positive scenario visualization improved measurable results by 41% compared to control groups. The key was making the positive scenarios feel as real as the negative ones previously did. The war of unconscious manifestation turned personal for thousands who realized they'd been visualizing their fears into existence. Neither fear-based programming nor conscious creation could dominate without awareness choosing between them. Even today, many people don't connect their chronic mental scenarios with their lived experiences, not understanding that the mind treats all vivid imagination as instruction. Daily conscious direction of imagination is key to lasting change in life circumstances. A pattern that starts as protection becomes a prediction that programs your reality if left unchecked. And the number one reason your mind creates fake scenarios: the soul's simulation training. This is when consciousness uses imagination to explore potential realities, develop wisdom, and evolve spiritually without needing physical experience. Dr. Michael Newton, hypnotherapist and author of Journey of Souls, documented thousands of past life regression sessions where subjects described the soul's learning process between incarnations. He found that souls use visualization and mental rehearsal extensively in the spirit world to prepare for upcoming life challenges. Eastern philosophy has taught this for millennia. The mind as a laboratory where karma gets worked out and spiritual lessons get previewed. According to research on mental simulation from Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert, humans spend more time in simulated mental scenarios than any other species. And this capacity directly correlates with our problem-solving abilities and evolutionary success. We became the dominant species, partly because we could imagine scenarios and learn from them without risking death. The triggering mechanism isn't fear. It's consciousness seeking growth. Someone imagines a difficult conversation, not because they're anxious, but because their soul is practicing boundary setting. They visualize loss not from morbid obsession, but because consciousness is preparing them for impermanence. What looks like anxiety might actually be spiritual training. This idea went toe-to-toe with materialist psychology for centuries, but current consciousness studies, including work by Dr. Bruce Grayson on near-death experiences, suggest awareness exists independent of brain activity. If consciousness is primary, not produced by the brain but received by it, then mental scenarios might serve purposes beyond emotional regulation. Spiritually, this is the Akashic field at work. Mystics describe the Akashic records as a dimension containing all possible realities and timelines. When you imagine scenarios, you might be accessing alternate probability streams, viewing what could be, what might be, or what needs to be learned from. The psychological framework here involves constructive mental simulation, the mind's ability to use imagination for problem-solving, empathy development, and meaning-making. Studies show people with rich, imaginative lives demonstrate higher emotional intelligence and adaptive coping strategies. On daily life, this manifests as your mind spontaneously offering scenarios that contain lessons. You imagine someone rejecting you, then realize you've been rejecting yourself. You play out a conflict, then notice a pattern you've been avoiding. The scenarios aren't predictions, they're teachings. The intervention is shifting from judgment to curiosity. Instead of labeling every fake scenario as anxiety or overthinking, ask, what is this scenario trying to teach me? What quality is it developing? Jungian analyst James Hollis calls this necessary suffering, the discomfort that grows consciousness. Meditation practices that honor imagination as sacred, active imagination, shamanic journeying, or contemplative visualization, transform mental scenarios from problems into tools. You stop trying to eliminate them and start mining them for wisdom. According to research on imaginative engagement and personal growth published in Imagination, Cognition, and Personality, people who reframed mental scenarios as consciousness training rather than dysfunctional thinking reported 53% higher life satisfaction and measurably better stress response. Neither the clinical model nor the spiritual model was willing to compromise on interpretation, but current integral psychology suggests both are correct. Fake scenarios serve biological and transcendent purposes simultaneously. Even today, many medicate or therapy away their imaginative capacity, not realizing these mental simulations might be consciousness itself, practicing, learning, and evolving. The breakthrough came when people stopped pathologizing imagination and started respecting it as a primary function of awakening awareness. If consciousness had a gym, these fake scenarios would be where the soul works out. Daily reflection on what each mental simulation teaches is key to lasting spiritual maturity. A capacity that starts as human adaptation reveals itself as consciousness, exploring infinite possibility through the creative power of mind. And that's why your mind creates fake scenarios. From protective rehearsal mechanisms to unresolved energy-seeking completion, from intuitive translation to unconscious manifestation, and ultimately to consciousness itself. Training through mental simulation. Each pattern serves a purpose, even when it feels like torture. The transformation happens when you stop fighting your imagination and start working with it. Your mind isn't broken because it creates scenarios that never happen. It's actually demonstrating the most sophisticated capability consciousness possesses. Which reason resonates most with your experience? Are your mental scenarios protecting you, trying to complete something? Guiding you intuitively, accidentally manifesting? Or training your soul? Drop a comment below. I'm genuinely curious which pattern you recognize in yourself. And if this helped you understand your mind differently, share it with someone who's been at war with their own thoughts. Sometimes the simple reframe from "I'm overthinking" to "I'm processing" changes everything. Until next time, remember, your imagination isn't the enemy. It's the tool consciousness uses to explore reality before living it.